$100 billion more money to Ukraine. It's unclear what that does that the first $100 billion didn't do, so some kleptocrat can buy a bigger house. No. I'm going to use our own military to protect our own borders in the United States of America. Southern border, northern border, protect our nation. We will end birthright citizenship for the kids of illegal migrants. It does not apply to them. That's how you actually stand for our national values. And anybody who is in this country illegally will be returned to their country of origin. It's the only right answer in the United States. So I don't think that should be too much to ask. The people we elect to run the government, and the moral duty they owe is to the citizens of this country, not another one. The fact that the mainstream media then labels that as extremist or radical or frightening or dangerous, or what Van Jones, this character on CNN, says he's shaking for how dangerous this will be for the future of the country, tells you how far we've come. These are not black ideas or white ideas. These aren't even really Democrat ideas or Republican ideas. It is deeper than that. These are American ideals that we fought a revolution to secure. And you know what? We live in a 1776 moment again right now. It is up to us to step up and seize that moment. That's what our founding fathers did. That's what George Washington did. That's what Thomas Jefferson did. That is what we are doing today. This is our 1776 moment. What George Washington would say is, you can't passively just inherit it. You know, Monday night, it's going to be a cold night. I'm coming out to the caucus, I'll tell you that. Warn you of that now, but he didn't complain about the weather when he crossed the Delaware. And that's the kind of moment we live in this country. We can't just be celebrating our comfortable diversity and differences without standing for the revolutionary ideals that actually unite all of us as Americans, that you get to speak your mind openly as long as I get to in return. That we, the people, settle our differences at the ballot box, not in the back of palace halls in old world England, not in the back of some three-letter government agency, not in the back of BlackRock's corner office on Park Avenue in Manhattan. No, we the people settle this in a constitutional republic. And the way we're going to get it back is by speaking the truth. Speak the truth and do it without apology. There is a reason I'm the only candidate in this race who can tell you the truth that I will strip vaccine manufacturers of their special liability exemptions because it's the right thing to do for this country. That I'm against the CO2 pipeline along with Steve in this state, which is crony capitalism. It is based on a climate change agenda that is a hoax because it has nothing to do with the climate. That I will pardon every peaceful January 6th protester on my first day in office because it is the right thing to do for the United States of America.
There was no insurrection.
Well, it was actually planned.
Yeah, there was no.
It wasn't planned by the people who they accused of planning it. So this is the reality today. I'm the only candidate who can tell you these things. And I want you to ask yourself, why? Because our politics has become corrupt. And frankly, in both parties, it is corrupt. Every politician is dancing to the tune of their biggest donor. And in my case, that biggest donor is me. I don't report to them. I report to you, the citizens of this country. Ronna McDaniel, the failed chairwoman of the RNC, says, I won't get another cent of funding. She says, Vivek was not going to get another cent of funding from the RNC. She proves my point. You know what? She needs to step down after 5 failed years of leadership in our party. And I'm the only person with the courage to say it in this race. So if you want somebody who's going to get in there and actually speak truth to power, then vote for the candidate who is going to speak the truth to you. And that's what we're doing every day in this campaign. I would rather lose this election and speak the truth than to win by playing some fake game of political snakes and ladders. But that's how we do this. That's how we get this country back. And we will stop at nothing until we get this job done. So if you all do your part on Monday night, and I know it's going to be a cold night, and I know that we're asking you to make a sacrifice, but if you guys do your part, if every one of you in here brings 10 people in this community out back with you to do the right thing, then we will stop at nothing to make sure, not in some fake politician kind of way, but in a true way, to make sure that our country's best days are actually still ahead of us. Thank you for coming out today, guys. God bless you and your families. I want to hand it over to Candace to say a few words, and then let's open this up and take some questions as well.
The energy in here is absolutely amazing.
Love this. Yeah, you guys are awesome. That's what it's going to take.
I love that. The energy that we need on Monday as well.
Thank you.
I want to let you guys know why I'm here. I know a lot of you guys follow me on Instagram, follow me on Twitter, and you probably are very aware that I just had a baby 7 weeks ago. And thank you very much. But most moms do not want to be away from their infants following just 7 weeks. So why am I here? And the truth is, it's because I worry about my children. I've had 3 children in the last 3 years. I'm doing the crazy 3 under 3. Help me. And one of those things, the moment just shifted, I think, in this country for all of us following January 6th. I don't think there was ever a darker moment in this country, not for the reasons the media would tell us, not because there was some insurrection, because suddenly we understood just how deep this thing went. We understood that our government truly was against us, that there really was a deep state, and that they would stop at nothing to be able to influence elections, to be able to tarnish the American reputation, pretending that all of us are horrible people. Why? Because we want to feed our families, because we believe that we should be putting Americans first, because we recognize, obviously, that what they did during COVID was positively ridiculous. Ushering in a totalitarian regime that was unelected and unaccountable to no one, by the way. I didn't elect the CDC or the FDA to be able to tell me whether or not I could go to work. And I just remember that period of darkness, being in D.C. 9 months pregnant and recognizing I am bringing my child, my firstborn son, into an America that I don't know if it's going to be here, right? I don't know. This is not my grandfather's America. This isn't an America that cares about freedom or recognizes that if you work hard and stay out of trouble, that this country should reward you. I felt the American dream slipping away. And I've had many presidential candidates on my show, obviously, and Vivek announced that he was running. I said, at the time, I was calling him Vivek. I was like, I'll have Vivek on my show, or whatever. He jumps onto the podcast, and I just started asking him questions. By the time we got finished with our discussion, it was 40 minutes, and I will never forget in the control room, I walked into the control room, there's about 7 people that work with me, and we all were just looking at each other. What was that? What was that? It was just air. It felt like fresh air had finally hit my face, that I could potentially believe in the American dream. And I don't even mean to throw mud at any other campaign, but we were told that the DeSantis campaign was going to be no drama. All of a sudden, Vivek has run the campaign that has been no drama, that has presented to us the possibility that we might actually be able to win our country again. They have nothing to say about him negative other than things that seem so remarkably petty. I just said to him, I remember when they really tried to say, oh, he sounds like ChatGPT. Oh, you mean he's smart? You're saying he sounds like a computer that spits out answers that are correct? Okay, I'm okay. I can get comfortable with that. Thank you. He has been remarkable. I have never seen anybody work harder to earn votes in my lifetime. I've never, the pace that he is working at. He doesn't even drink coffee, by the way. Fun fact. He doesn't drink coffee, so I don't know what's going on here, but I think it's just a genetic phenomenon, to be honest. And I just wanted to put my full support behind it because I worry about this country for my children, and he makes me worry less. I believe in Vivek. He is going places. He's at the beginning of his campaign, and I mean that from the bottom of my heart.
Thank you. Well, why don't we open this up for a bit of time before we wrap this up, please?
So I have to say I thought you were Vivek as well.
I wouldn't blame you based on how it's spelled. Yeah, we got a microphone right up here, actually. Yep, thank you. He's so fast. Thank you, man.
So my husband actually saw you a few weeks ago in Washington, Iowa, and he was going on and on about how great you were and how much he liked you, and of course, I secretly was a Trumper.
So we're us.
Yeah, exactly. But I followed like, and so when I saw it today, he asked me, we were going to Costco, and he says, hey, do you want to go see, my guy? I'm like, look, if you want to go, we can go. He goes, Candace Owens going to be there, and I'm like, all right, let's go. And
That's great.
I just have to say, your young lady who was
Esther,
Miss Esther, yes, she was great. But she was, if you're going to be like in this spot, by the end of the show, you're going to be here. And honestly, I think I kind of am over there now.
Oh, wow. Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate that.
There's a couple questions very quickly I have for you. This one I have
Sure.
for you. My husband is retired military. Thank you.
Thank you for your service. Thank you.
And I don't know if any of you know, TRICARE sucks.
Yeah.
Insurance for
Yep.
retired military. What are you going to do to help those guys?
Yeah.
And it's just not our family, but others.
Sure.
How are you going to fix that for us?
First, I want to thank your husband for his service to this country and
Yep.
setting an example.
Absolutely.
Where is he? Right here. Oh, right here. Okay, good. Good to see you. So, I'll say one thing about more comprehensively for our veterans. A country that doesn't take care of its veterans isn't a country in any sense of the word, right? We have to have some basic pride to stand for the people who made sacrifices for that nation. Basic things we can do. This doesn't require partisanship. We've got about probably the highest level of veteran suicide in this country that we've had in our national history. 40 veterans per day, close to that, are committing suicide and turning to fentanyl. I think people who come back from combat roles need to have 6-week paid decompression buffers as a minimum. That brings down PTSD by 80%. They should be able to report their PTSD. Many of them are subject to privacy restrictions, but they need more privacy restrictions instead of getting tagged with the red flag law. You shouldn't have to drive 200 miles to the nearest VA center. We need community-based medical care paid for through the VA for our own veterans so they're actually able to get good medical care instead of driving hundreds of miles. Thank you. So she just said you had three sons who have had to drive an hour and a half. This story is common across the country. Many choose not to get that care, including basic mental health care, especially for those who suffer from PTSD. I also favor absolute medical choice for veterans through the VA for Schedule I drugs. Ayahuasca, ketamine, psilocybin, better than fentanyl and suicide. We got to stand for what's right for our veterans. And no veteran and nobody in active duty military should be paying federal taxation on their own compensation. It doesn't make sense. That's what it means to stand for our own veterans. And yes, that's how we're going to end the recruitment crisis in our U.S. military. We'll come here and then we'll go to the back right there to the two gentlemen right there. We'll come right here first. There's two guys there. Yeah.
I admire the way that you keep things in a layman's term.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're smart.
Thanks, man. I appreciate it. It's good to see you.
Softball question. What do your opinion on Malay over there in Argentina?
Oh, yeah, I love the guy. I've been following him for a long time. But I will say this, right? If at the end of my first 3 months I have not made Javier Milei look like a moderate, then I haven't done my job in this country. That's what I'm going to say. But I say that in a place of love for him. That's where I come from.
First off, Candace, it's such a pleasure to see you.
Thank you.
15 years.
Aw, you're so sweet.
But question I have for you, Vivek.
Vivek, yeah. Like cake. Thank you.
Like cake.
Are you familiar with the War Powers Act of 1938?
Broadly.
1933, and that has all of us as being servants to the federal government. None of our land belongs to us.
Yeah.
None of our bank accounts belong to us. We are enemies of the state. Donald Trump had the option to suspend that.
And he didn't.
And he did.
Yeah.
And it's something that every American should be seriously looking into because, again, we are all enemies of the state. So
So it's one of what many of my libertarian friends have actually called this very issue to my attention. And I think Javier Milei would say, put an end to that, so would I. And I think that a lot of these older laws, it's a deeper issue, comes full circle, are actually what are being used to charge Donald Trump in some of these made-up, trumped-up prosecutions, actually. So it's the Sedition Act that was used before, used to charge him in the documents case. So in some cases, If you fail to kill the snake, it eventually comes back and swallows you whole. And so that's actually part of what we're seeing, sadly. What they're doing to Donald Trump is in some ways the full circle of a lot of these unexpired statutes that should have never been on the books in the first place. Correct. We're bringing the purge. That's what we're doing on my watch. So I appreciate that.
It's going to take overturning that to change anything.
I agree with you. And the same thing with respect to the Sedition Act. There's a whole long list of them. We are... And you know what happened in the Republican Party in the early 2000s is we put that on hyperdrive, actually. With much of the Patriot Act, you take a lot of look at the national security establishment, and that's what's at stake in this GOP primary. I want to use this to say a word about something really important that affects, I believe, how you should vote on January 15th. This is the divide in the Republican Party. Do we bring back the old Dick Cheney vision of the Republican Party? Fork over our money to places like Ukraine, keep the national security state humming here at home, to spy on you the way that Jack Smith now wants to do? Is that what we want from our Republican Party? No, relegate that to the dustbins of history. Dick Cheney 2.0, I don't care what disguise it comes in. We're saying no to that. But here's the plot. I really want to lay this out. They are leading us into a trap right now. And I want you to see it. You see it. I want everybody to see it. They want to narrow this down to a two-horse race between Donald Trump and a puppet who they can control. They will then eliminate Trump and trot in their puppet to the White House. That's hiding in plain sight. So if you think they are going to let Donald Trump get anywhere near that White House again, I'm going to ask you to open your eyes. I've stood against these prosecutions against him. Today, literally a couple of hours ago, I personally filed an amicus brief at the Supreme Court to actually overturn, arguing the legal arguments for overturning the Colorado decision to keep him off the ballot. Because frankly, I don't know if they're going to make the best legal arguments on their own. I'm going to be frank with you. You see, but at a certain point, we got to acknowledge this system will stop at nothing. And it increasingly looks like they will stop at nothing to keep this man away. We cannot walk into that trap. Our America First agenda didn't begin in 2016. It started in 1776. And we owe it to our founding fathers to make sure we have another 250 years still left yet to go. And in order to get there, it's going to require, I think, a leader with fresh legs who's going to lead us to victory in this war. And so for even those of you who, like me, like us, like you, were and are still supporters in the sense of Trump and what he represents, we love the man because he got this fight started, but now it is our job, it is my duty to finish it. And so I'm asking you to do the right thing on January 15th for our country. That's what we're going to do. We'll go right next to you, and we'll take as many as we can before they let us to the next event.
I really appreciate you guys being here. And Candace, you're an absolute symbol of Christianity and for women all across America.
Thank you so much.
You might have talked to our daughter today, probably.
Oh, congratulations.
I think it's an honor to get to meet you. And so,
Congratulations.
Vivek, I'm sorry if I pronounced it wrong.
That's good. We're getting there. Vivek.
I had a couple of questions, but I found that this was the most important because there's nothing more than I fear than losing God's favor. How can we rekindle a strong sense of love for both America and God among our people to avoid losing God's favor and blessing as a nation? Because, like I said, there's nothing more that I would fear than to lose God's favor.
Thank you. I appreciate you. God has become a kind of four-letter word in our culture. Right? Something you're not supposed to talk about. Even if you think about the Ten Commandments, what do they say? There's one true God. Don't take his name in vain. Observe the Sabbath. Respect your parents. Don't lie. Don't cheat. Don't steal. Don't kill. Don't commit adultery. Don't covet. These are the Judeo-Christian values our nation was founded on, but these are values that people of every faith in this country, many faiths in this country, absolutely share in common. We've lost that common core, taught to celebrate our superficial, skin-deep attributes, celebrate our diversity as our strength. Our true strength is what unites us across that diversity. It's on the back of our coins, two things. In God we trust, and e pluribus unum, which means from many, one. There's an old expression that goes, if you have a hole the size of God in your heart and God doesn't fill it, Something else will instead. That's where you get, pick your favorite one. Wokeism, transgenderism, climatism, COVIDism, Zelenskyism. These are religions, really, modern religions in the United States. But it's not an accident that you see the rise of these same religions at the same time you see the rise of depression and anxiety and fentanyl and suicide. These are symptoms of that deeper void of purpose and meaning in our country. And so my job as the next president, I think it's the job of pastors as well across this country to play their job, but my job as the president is to swear an oath to the Constitution and to keep it. And that means actually preserving religious liberty, which we've lost in this country. An epidemic of an assault on religious liberties, especially against Christianity, but broadly against religion in this country, substituting this new religion of capital S secularism, which actually has adopted a new religious quality instead. That's what the climate religion is all about. Part of what we need is to restore that shared set of values. And I swear an oath to the Constitution as a matter of policy will protect against the assault on religious liberty. But I'll also say that half the job of the next U.S. president isn't just policy. It's to stand for our national character, who we are as Americans. The last president, I think, who believed that was important even was Ronald Reagan, I think. When he left office in January of 1989, the thing he said, he could have picked anything that he was proud of. Bringing us to the near end of the Cold War, growing the economy, getting us out of stagflation. He didn't pick any of that. The thing what Reagan said in January of 1989 was that he was proud to revive our national character. That's the standard I want you to hold me to. I think it's been a long time since we've held our presidents to the standard. Candace was talking about her kids. She's a mother of 3. I'm a father of 2. I think I want us to be able to look our kids in the eye and tell them and mean it when we say, I want you to grow up and be like him, whoever that is in the White House. That's the highest possible standard you could hold me to, and that's the standard Apurva and I both want you to hold us to as your next president. That's how I think we're going to revive our national character. Thank you. Young man right here. Go for it.
Modern-day slavery is at an all-time high. It's called sex trafficking. And what have you, if you're elected president, what will you do to combat that?
Thank you. It's a great question and a brave question. So there's 2 sides to this, the top-down and the bottom-up. The top-down side is we have to be more effective at actually enforcing the laws. Part of the reason I call the FBI the failed Bureau of Investigation is that they're making up all kinds of corrupt acts in the back offices, yet they've actually failed to fight the fentanyl epidemic or failed to actually fight even the child sex trafficking epidemic by enforcing the laws that are on the books. There's 35,000 employees at the FBI. 20,000 of them are back office bureaucrats at the J. Edgar Hoover building, of all things, believe it or not. That's what they call it. They're going to go home and find honest work. The 15,000 agents on the front lines, though, we're going to move them to agencies like the U.S. Marshals or the DEA, both of which actually have been far more effective at fighting child sex trafficking rings than has been the FBI. So this is at once about rooting out the corruption and addressing actual improvement in effectiveness, which we haven't had. And so that's actually the reality from the top-down version of it. The bottom-up version, though, is that we have a pornography problem in this country. And this is the ugly part that's uncomfortable to talk about. We have a demand-side problem in this country. And I think it begins, in some ways, even in our schools today. It begins with a culture that doesn't protect our children. Most victims of child sex trafficking, where do they meet their predators? It's on the internet. A lot of this acculturation takes place through algorithmically powered social media. It's funny you brought that up. We were just talking about that literally on the bus ride over here. I think every kid in this country, we already say you can't smoke an addictive cigarette by the age of 18. You can't have an addictive drink of alcohol by the age of 21. I don't think any kid in this country should be using an addictive social media product before the age of 16 either. And this is how we protect our children in this country. And I stand for that. So thank you for asking a brave question. All good? Yeah. Yeah, we can. Right.
I'm sorry about that.
Oh, this guy's been so fast.
I quit my job as a clinical health coach during COVID because I was like, oh, hell no. Like, I'm not buying into this.
Thank you. Thank you.
I morally couldn't sleep at night and continue to bullshit people. And that kind of goes with our question today. I know you stand there because I watch your show. Our healthcare system is in what I call entrapment, to just entrapment of disease and unhealthy behavior, and just let's put a medicine on you, and
Sure.
we'll see you in 3 months, and then we're going to see it every 3 months, and we're just going to keep that residual income. And it doesn't give you the freedom. Our healthcare is no benefit from our employers.
Sure.
It's entrapment.
That's what it is.
I have to pay out of my pocket to go to my functional doctor because she wants to heal me from the inside out. And I'll pay for it. I don't care at this point. Because I'll be damned if I go down to Unity Point and they tell me I need this or this and just need to be on medication.
Yeah.
Won't do it. What are you going to do different to give our actual health freedom?
Sure.
Not to just veterans.
Great question.
But to every American.
Every American.
Thank you.
Where if I have to pay health insurance, I want a damn choice.
Yes. Yes, so we don't have that's a great question. And thank you for saying it in the right pointed way. I would just say it slightly differently in that we don't even have a healthcare system.
Yeah.
Sick care system. That's what it is. Right? And who wants it this way is the pharmaceutical industry. And actually a lot of the rest of the healthcare industry. My wife, Apurva, she is a hero. She's a throat surgeon. She saves lives every day. I mean, she's going to be a badass first lady. I'll tell you this. She's going to keep her job while she's in the White House because she's good at what she does. But let me just tell me about what she does is many people have not swallowed food for years after they've had throat surgery. The kind of surgery she does allows them to swallow food after many years. We have such a broken system that will pay for all kinds of pill-pushing behaviors, pay for certain kinds of expensive interventions like feeding tubes, but in this weird case, in many cases, doesn't pay for the very kind of procedure that allows them to live a better life. So in her case, she does many of them without herself getting paid. And that's fine for us. That works for our family because it's the right thing to do. And this country has blessed us with an American dream we never imagined. It doesn't work for the system. So there's two things we need to end. I mean, there's a lot that needs to be done, but I'll give you two simple things that we can talk about that get to the root causes. One is the FDA, the failed drug administration, has effectively set the competition barrier from new competition from entering the market that allows pharma to actually exert monopoly pricing leverage on the market. That's counterintuitive because people say, no, why would pharma argue for higher barriers for themselves? It's because it keeps the competition out. That's number one. Number two is the health insurance companies have lobbied for special antitrust exemptions. So normally there's antitrust rules that apply from coordination, setting prices and limiting scope of choice. But not for the health insurance industry. Again, it comes down to the effect of lobbying. So this goes to basic issues of anti-corruption in the government. I think that you should not be able to lobby the government for at least 10 years after you've left that same government. How does that serve the American people? I don't think you should be able to join the board of a company if you've regulated that company for at least 10 years after you've left office. I don't think you should trade individual stocks if you're a congressman or if you're a bureaucrat. It doesn't make any sense. How does that advance the American interest? And so we have to bring those anti-corruption measures to D.C., but especially as it relates to the healthcare industry, more competitive private health insurance, which will certainly ensure we actually do cover health rather than sickness if you get rid of those antitrust exemptions, end the pharma lobbying, increase and reduce the barriers to increase competition. That's how we get this done, and I'm grateful to you for asking that question. Thank you. Sure. Just because I love your jacket so much also. It's good to see you again.
Yeah, thank you.
I love that.
When you win the presidency, would you consider President Trump as your running mate, or vice versa? Would you consider being his running mate if he wins?
Well, thank you. I think that I've gotten that question a lot in recent weeks about whether I would take Trump as my vice president. I would, is the answer to that question. I think he'd be excellent for the job. Who else would I rather have than to learn from where he last left off, where the body's buried? I don't think he would accept that position. We're all human beings, and you know, I think for him that would be a tough pill to swallow. I may be wrong about that. I'll take him as my most important advisor when I'm in office, though. Because it's not about Trump and it's not about me. I mean, I love you know, just stand up so everybody can see it. I love your hat and your jacket bow. The Vivek hat with the jacket. Bill, right?
Billboard Bob.
Billboard Bob. Yes, that's right. Yeah, that's right. Billboard Bob. I got to say this, is our America First agenda, it's bigger than one man. It doesn't belong to Donald Trump. It doesn't belong to me. It belongs to you, to us, to we the people in this country. And I think every one of us has to look ourselves in the mirror and ask, we each have our own God-given gifts. How do we use those God-given gifts to do what is right in the short time that we're given? That's why I'm running for president. I think it's my duty to this country to use my skills both as an entrepreneur and as a constitutionalist. And I think we need both of those in the next president to actually drain the swamp without getting duped. I firmly believe I'm going to best be able to do that and only be able to do that from the front. That's why I'm running for president. It's not out of ego or anything else that I tell you that. If I thought there was a better way for me to drive change in this country, somebody better to do this job of actually gutting that bureaucracy, standing for our national identity, reviving who we are, I would be happy to support that person. But I think the best way for this work is for me to be your next president, Donald Trump advising me. He'd be my most important advisor in my first year as we make that transition in. I've said that and I stand by it. But what I worry about for the future of our country is we don't have the luxury of asking those kinds of questions right now. They're walking us into a trap. We are months away from seeing it in retrospect. We're not going to look back 6 months from now and say, oh, are we shocked by what happened? We're going to look back 6 or 12 months from now and say, how did we not see that coming? And so that's why I'm asking you, America First patriots in this room, to do the right thing for our country on January 15th, on Monday night. If you even want to save this country, if you want to save Trump, a vote for me is actually the way to do it. And that's counterintuitive, but that's what I'm asking you. Skate to where the puck is going. And you do your part. We're going to do ours to make sure we're not wallowing in the mess we're in. Right here, then we'll go to Linda.
Will you reopen the Keystone Pipeline and make
Yes.
America energy independent again?
Yes, and here's how we're going to fight our national debt while we're at it. Get the oil and natural gas from underneath our ground and sell it to buy down $8 trillion of our national debt. There you got your national debt problem solved without cutting Social Security and without cutting a dime of veterans benefits or Medicare. That's what it means to put America first. And then we're starting to cut 75% of the bureaucracy. It's under control. Great question, my man. Drill, frack, burn coal, embrace nuclear, all of it. Don't apologize. That's how we're going to run the country.
Right.
Would you briefly recap your pro-life stance?
Yes. My pro-life stance is simple. Unborn life is life. And I think if we really believe in that, we have to stand for it. You have people who tell you, oh, well, in order to win elections, we need to compromise on that. I look at it the other way. In order to win elections, we have to actually walk the walk in standing for being pro-life. So I'll tell you what that means. That means policies favoring access to adoption, child care. But speaking as a man on this issue, I don't think gender should matter, but they always tell you, well, be delicate as you're talking about this as a man. Crisis pregnancy care, all of it. Speaking as a man, here's what I'm going to tell you about this one. I favor laws that will codify greater sexual responsibility for men into the law. And I'll tell you what I mean. If a woman brings a child to term, she should, at her option, be able to make the man responsible both for her and for the child. Codify that in the law if it's confirmed by a genetic paternity test. And that way we've completely taken the legs out of the other side's argument, and we're also standing for our own principles. It's not men's rights versus women's rights anymore. It's about human rights. And that's why we say we're all in this together, and that's how I'm going to win a landslide election without compromising on our pro-life principles. And that's how we're going to lead this country. Thank you. Go to the back right there. Love all these great questions we're getting.
Thank you. Time. I have a question, but real quick. Yesterday you were in Des Moines and you took some questions from Jane and her boys. I don't know if you remember that, but my mother and my brothers were there.
Oh, really? Thank you.
Yeah.
I do remember
based
that.
all the questions, by the way.
Thank you.
I don't know if you've been keeping up with anything UAP related, like David Grush's
Yeah,
testimony.
I actually talked to David Grush.
Okay,
He called me. We had a conversation.
Well, somebody earlier mentioned the suits kind of coming into the office on your first day in office, and they give you some kind of briefing. Do you reckon black programs like the ones that David Grush described would be a part of that, and how would that affect? And I guess
we just need total transparency.
Yeah.
In every area of. I mean, you could think about from the truth of what really happened with the Jeffrey Epstein cases to the truth of what we know or don't know about UAPs, the truth of what happened on January 6th. The truth about what we were lied to about the COVID origin, the Hunter Biden laptop story, how our money's being spent in Ukraine. I don't care what it is. The right answer is to speak the truth to the people again. We, the people, deserve the truth. We can handle the truth. We deserve a government that tells us the truth. And if there's one thing I can promise you as your next president, we're not going to hide the ball. Sometimes the truth is ugly. Sometimes the truth hurts. But we stand for the truth for a reason. And that's how we restore this country. That's how we regain trust in this country. We, the people, will once again have a government that at the very least, by the time out of office, you may not like what you see, but you will at least see what we actually know. And that's my pledge to you as the next president. We can get that done. Thank you. Sure. Oh, hey.
Hey.
Good to see you.
Good to see you too, Vivek. Candace, it's nice to see you in person. I read your book and absolutely love it.
Oh, thank you so much.
The segments on the Daily Wire as well. So, my question is more related to the financial field.
Okay.
Of course, I like all of the policies that you have in place. But me, it being in the financial field, running a branch here at Cedar Rapids. So as far as like banks and credit unions, one thing that we're facing is fraud. And it's huge. And something that the UK is doing right now is implementing that a lot of the responsibility goes back on the return of the bank and the person that's sending it. So there's no fault for the person that's getting scammed, essentially.
Yeah.
So I see who can all be a part of it and why, but if we continue to put all the burden on the financials, that will not be sustainable for banks and credit unions. So what would you put into place? Because I know if we take things away with the FBI, and I know the chart that you created would go to the Treasury team, but what are your suggestions as far as staying ahead of that?
Sure. So thank you for your question. I appreciate that you've done so much detailed work in understanding what my positions are, looking at actually even the flow charts of how we're going to reorganize this. So what we have with the financial regulatory regime right now is a failed apparatus that is at once impeding innovation in the financial sector and yet failing to actually get the financial fraudsters, the likes of SBF and the FTXs of the world. Why didn't that happen? So it's because of ambiguity in the government kind of creating a false blanket of security and expectation for consumers that they're protected, but without actually even going the distance and doing the job anyway. And so the short answer is, and I'm getting it's our time? Okay, good. Me and Steve both, or both, all of us? All of us. Okay, got it. Good. Thank you. I'm having too much fun here, guys. I see it gets, okay. So I think Steve and Candace can both stay, but I'll answer this before we head out. What we actually need is we're doing neither of those things. And so when I talk about a 75% headcount reduction in the federal government, along with that goes a lot of those unconstitutional regulations that come from that federal government too. Then people in this country know that, okay, you don't have a security blanket. You can't rely on the government to make every decision you make. You have to make that decision for yourself. Be it about a vaccine. I mean, the CDC has mandated or recommended the COVID shot for kids. We've just made the decision not to give the COVID shot to our kids. It's an informed decision that we made on our own, seeking the information that was best for our family. Same it goes in the financial sphere right now too, but we live in the worst of both worlds, where we have a government through the godforsaken regulations that run thousands upon thousands of pages long in the name of providing a security blanket, without actually providing the security blanket at all. SBF still scammed $8 billion worth of money in the end. But while crowding out the instincts we normally have as individuals to take our basic sense of responsibility. That's the worst of all worlds. If we're going Malay on this, is to my friend's earlier question. Make sure you have a government that gets out of the way of the people, but that also requires people not to behave as sheep anymore. We have become a nation of sheep. And a nation of sheep breeds a government of wolves, actually. That's what the Constitution and the Second Amendment is really all about. And so it's the top-down problem. I'm going to solve that. But I'm not going to do it alone. I'm not letting you all off the hook that easily. We're doing this together. I'm going to do my part. It's not going to be a president coming from on high, from the White House, to save us. If we're going to be saved, it's going to be because we save ourselves. Every parent and pastor and teacher and executive and entrepreneur stepping up to do their part for this country. But if you all do your part, I promise you, Apurva and I and our family and all of us in this movement will do ours to make sure we don't have to be this nation in decline anymore. We don't have to be at the end of ancient Rome. I think as a nation right now, I think this is what George Washington would say if he were in this room right now. As a nation, we are really still a little young. Going through our own adolescence. Figuring out who we're going to be when we grow up. And when you view it that way, it makes sense again, actually. We don't have to be this nation in decline. I think we still can be a nation in our ascent. I'm not the guy who walks in and tells you it's morning in America, guys. It's not. But it can be. I refuse to tell young people that the American dream is alive and well right now. It is not. It is alive and hanging on for life support. But it can be. So before I head out, I'll leave you here with Candace and Steve. You guys probably even have more fun with them. But I'll tell you this is... Thank you, man. I appreciate it. That's why I like you back, and I love you back. I love this country, and I love all of you. This has been such a humbling process. 390 events we'll have done in Iowa by the time of the Iowa Caucus. I have learned so much from all of you through this process. It has been the experience of a lifetime for Apurva and I and our family and our kids. And I'm asking you at this final hour to do what's right for this country. I'm asking for your vote on January 15th at that caucus. I'm asking you to tell 10 people in this community what we talked about today. Bring them to. And if you all do your part, yes, I promise you that our nation's best days will actually be ahead of us and that our kids will still grow up in a country where they get ahead with their own hard work and commitment and dedication. That's the American dream. That you're free to speak your minds at every step of the way. That is what we are running to. And with your help, that is what we will revive to save this great nation. Thank you all. God bless you and our country and your families and our United States of America. Thank you.
Thank you guys so much. Thank you.
Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, the future president
You
of
did
the
say?
United States.
They're telling me that I had a cup of coffee, so that's what they're whispering to me.
Thank you, guys. Thank you. Thank you, guys. I appreciate it.
Come
here. This is my cousin.
Thank you, Linda. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Candace. Great job.
This is now by Steve King. I love this one. Oh, you must.
Already on college campuses.
Good. Thank you. Thank you. Hey, thank you, man. I appreciate you. Thank you. This is your kids?
Well, in terms
Good
of,
to see you guys. Thank you for being here, guys. Thank you.
I always tell people, think of it as a very short-term thing that you have to go through that's only going to make you stronger. Because if you remain fortified in your principles and you don't
guys, good to
compromise
see you
them,
guys.
on the other side,
We're going to do this, guys. Thank
true
you.
to who you are, you are going to be so better situated to maintain the oath of office to the Constitution. You wouldn't even be bothered.
That's right. We wouldn't have to. But we're doing this for that reason. Thank you, guys. Thank you, guys. We're going to go outside and steps. We're going to go outside and steps. I appreciate it. Come on. It's awesome. Here, guys. Thank you. Oh, hey, good to see you. Good to see you. Oh, you are amazing. You're amazing.
Thank you so much. Nice to meet you.
Had a huge effect on him. I I need to know what are you going to do with school shootings, man. It's going to touch everyone.
3 armed security guards in every school across this country.
Okay, Candace
That's the
cannot
hard
actually
answer to the
jump. She's
question.
got a foot
You
surgery.
want to get Steve and Candace as well? Thank you.
Oh, yeah, but I'm just going to go because the press
Good
room's
to
right
see
there.
you.
Yeah, I'll be
You
right
made
back.
it. I saw you. I
Sorry
love
about
that.
I
Thank
didn't
you.
hear him say
Keep
that.
spreading the word, and we're going to do this.
Is it outside?
One of my first Iowans we
Looks
met.
good.
I appreciate that. Thank you. Thank you. Oh, here's Gavin. Can you grab Candace, actually?
Absolutely.
Thank you. We'll do a quick Gavin.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you.
All right.
I appreciate it. Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate you guys.
Hey, sorry, I'm so sorry about that.
All right, Candace, we got to talk to these folks.
Huge crowd for Vivek in
Few
there.
questions. Yeah, that's pretty good. We got a big one at the next
crowd
one,
in
too,
there.
I think. It
Yeah.
goes over the day today.
Yeah.
Right here, you announced today that you are going to file the amicus briefing to the Supreme Court for President Trump's removal.
Yes.
Can you explain your decision to file today?
My decision to file was as soon as we actually have laid out a legal argument, I think we need to articulate that for the public. And that's what we've done. And at every step of the way, from the first time I showed up at the Miami courthouse, all the way to the FOIA demands that I filed against the Biden administration, demanding transparency on what Biden and Merrick Garland each told Jack Smith, I've taken every step that I possibly can, up to and including filing this amicus brief, laying out what we see are the most solid legal arguments for why the Supreme Court absolutely should overturn Colorado Supreme Court's disastrous 4-3 partisan decision. And let's be really honest, guys. I'm the second choice for, if you take Donald Trump off the ballot, most of the recent polling, most of which I still think is even rigged, if you look at it even in the face of that, I'd be the runaway favorite here. Nonetheless, that's not how I want to win. This is not how any of us should want to win. And I think it's shameful that other Republicans are effectively aiding and abetting this by implicitly saying they won't remove themselves from the ballots of Colorado or Maine if they take Trump off. So I believe in doing the right thing on principle. I'm in this for the country, not for myself. And so we're going to do what's right at every step of the way. And filing that amicus brief, I think, is the right thing to do because those legal arguments deserve to be aired. And that's exactly what we did today. We've been in the process of doing it. I believe it is filed right before we came to this event.
Mr. Ramaswamy, and I guess
Who are you with?
With NBC News.
Okay.
A question for Candace Owens as well. We've seen a lot larger groups today. A lot of voters I've spoken to said that they came interested because you're campaigning with Mr. Ramaswamy, and you said that you give him your full support. Are you considering that an official endorsement?
I do, but I think Candace is not in the. I don't want to speak for her.
I'm definitely not shy in giving my opinion about things, and I've actually never endorsed a candidate in the past, and I was just so impressed with Vivek's campaign, the positivity of his campaign, the energy of his campaign. I just gave birth, I'm sure, as you heard in there, 7 weeks ago, and I'm concerned about this country for the future of my children. Vivek is the future for America. He is American first. He is one of the brightest minds that I've ever seen in politics. I really do believe that, and I do not believe the media has given him a fair shake. So my decision to come down here was because I knew that it would invite more media, and I knew that people would come out and listen to what he had to say because I felt that the media was being unfair and creating a barrier. Everything he said has been absolutely brilliant. He has obviously done an amazing job all by himself, and I just feel like I'm just an ordinary part of what really has been an extraordinary campaign run by Vivek.
Thank you.
So we got 4 days to the caucus. Can you talk about kind of what your plan, your strategy is in this final stretch?
I think we're seeing a late surge. That's exactly what we're seeing on the ground. Look at the number of endorsers who have come over in the last 48 to 72 hours. One of DeSantis' most prominent, strongest constitutional conservatives in the state, Steve Holt, switched his endorsement to me and did it at the state capitol in front of a large audience. And I think he did so with a heavy heart. I think many people expected Steve King, if I may say so, to endorse Donald Trump, if we're being honest about it. That's what everybody expected. Steve, after a lot of consideration, came my way as well. We have a number of others that we picked up just last night, just the other night. I mean, we go straight down the list of the number of endorsers we've gotten of the strongest constitutional conservatives in this state. Iowa breaks late, and people wait till the end correctly to evaluate and make their decisions. Many of the people in this room didn't know who I was 6 months ago. And so I think people have taken their time to really make their decision carefully. And I believe we're going to see a massive surprise on Monday at the Iowa caucus. And I'm grateful for this process rewarding those who do show up. We've done more events than all of the other candidates combined by a large margin at that. The only candidate in the Northwest a few days ago, we drove up there, and, you know, it was in the middle of a blizzard. Every other candidate canceled all their events. We kept all 4 of them back in the Northwest, and it took 6 hours to drive back. I know you drove back to Sioux City.
It took me 5.5 hours, and you were 3 in the morning when you arrived down there after
that's
you
right.
took a detour into the ditch.
And you know, I think that and whatever, we stop at nothing. You know, I was out there. I was actually out there along with our team. Some of these big guys over here. We were all pushing the car out, and That's what this process is all about. And so I expect that Iowans will reward somebody who showed up, put the effort in. And it's not just as a display of putting in the effort. This is what gives me my energy. I don't have coffee. I take my energy from the people of this country and the people of this state who show up as patriots, who care every bit as much as I do about the future of the country. And I think that's going to be rewarded on Monday night. I expect a major shock to the system, and it'll propel us forward to the next phase of the race. And I also want to say this with clarity. We are in this to the very end, period. I have an obligation to this country to be so. I told you in there, and I'm going to say it again, I think the system is trying to narrow this down to a two-horse race between Donald Trump and a puppet they can control. That puppet's name is Nikki Haley. And they are going to trot in that puppet by eliminating Trump. That's the plan that they've set. And the America First movement cannot end with that. And I believe it is my obligation to this country to see this through to the very finish, and we will. And the finish for me isn't just the end of the GOP primary. It isn't even just November of this year. It is January 2033, after 2 terms, when we revive this country. And that's what I'm in this for. Zach, we have time for maybe... Oh, I got to go. Okay, they're dragging me out. Jeff Stein is next.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you, guys. Hot Mike Christie is all I'll say is those are the most truthful words I've heard Chris Christie speak in this campaign. So thank you. Thank you. Hey, thank you, man. I promised you one. I promised this guy one. Thank you for coming, man. Spread the word, guys. Let's do this on January 15th.